Have you ever wondered why, despite doing everything right, you're still overlooked? You wake early, follow your routine, stay consistent even when exhausted. They told you this was the path to greatness, that discipline was your virtue. But what if that virtue is the very thing keeping you powerless? What if, beneath the surface of all your effort, lies a hidden obedience not to truth, but to a system that thrives on making you predictable? The Stoics taught us to question everything, even our so-called strengths, because the man who cannot break his rhythm is the man the world can control. In this video, we're going to rethink discipline, not to discard it, but to uncover something sharper, something freer. Stay with me. This may change the way you move through the world. 1. Discipline makes you predictable. Discipline is praised like a virtue, but too often it's misunderstood. We've been sold a version of it that looks impressive on the surface, waking up at 5 a.m., never missing a day at the gym, grinding through tasks whether they nourish us or not. And yet, what if that kind of discipline is not strength, but submission? Let me ask you this: whose game are you playing? Because most people aren't building their own. They're disciplined, yes, but inside a system someone else designed. A schedule written by someone richer. A morning routine preached by someone louder. They treat these rules like sacred texts, never questioning if the path still leads where they want to go. That's not resilience. That's obedience dressed up as self-improvement. The Stoics would urge us to pause here. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about discipline as blind repetition. He spoke of intentional action, of choosing what to do based on reason, not compulsion. If you are distressed by anything external, he said, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke. That includes the pressure to always be consistent, to always be busy, to always push forward even when the map has changed. So, picture this instead: a different kind of mind. A dangerous mind. One that doesn't worship discipline but commands it. This person doesn't wake up at dawn because a book said it leads to greatness. He wakes when it makes sense. He doesn't force productivity on days meant for reflection. He rests when the body signals to recover, then strikes with precision when the moment is right. He doesn't stay married to a routine once it becomes predictable, because predictability is a liability. Enemies, manipulators, even life itself can corner you when they know your next move. And this person, this dangerous Stoic, refuses to live in a pattern so fixed that it betrays his position. He changes angles mid-battle, shifts tone mid-conversation, redirects energy the moment it no longer serves. That's not indiscipline, that's strategic mastery. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine was religious about his morning run, same route, same time, every single day. He believed it was the backbone of his discipline, but one day, someone followed him. He noticed a car parked at the corner for the third morning in a row. When he changed his route, the car didn't move. It was only then he realized. His consistency had become exposure. His predictability made him vulnerable. Now, maybe your battlefield isn't safety, but it is freedom. And you can become trapped in a routine so rigid, it no longer serves you. People will expect your reactions. Your boss will always know you'll say yes. Your critics will predict how you'll defend yourself. And the moment they can predict you, they can control you. That's why true power isn't in unbroken routine. It's in dynamic control. A Stoic doesn't tie his identity to one system. He ties it to reason. He asks, does this still work? Does this still serve my aim? If the answer is no, he pivots without guilt, and that's the difference between a soldier and a ruler. The soldier follows orders, even when they no longer make sense. He keeps marching because discipline says so. The ruler rewrites the orders. He adapts to the terrain. He pauses the attack when a greater opportunity reveals itself. He moves in silence when it's wiser than noise. And he doesn't feel weak for changing direction. He feels empowered. Seneca once wrote, "No wind is favorable to the sailor who does not know to which port he is bound." In other words, consistency means nothing if you're not headed somewhere meaningful, if your actions aren't examined, if your discipline isn't flexible. You become a prisoner of your own routine. So if you want to be dangerous, don't just be disciplined, be discerning. Use routine as a weapon, not a cage. Wake when it's time to strike. Rest when the soul needs clarity. Move fast when timing is key. Slow down when attention holds more power than speed. And above all, don't let the world decode your behavior. Don't let them know exactly how you'll act, when you'll speak, what you'll sacrifice. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Because when your rhythm can't be tracked, your mind can't be caught. And in that quiet unpredictability, in that deep alignment with what serves the moment, you don't just become disciplined. You become untouchable. Now let's talk about what happens when silence becomes your sharpest blade. 2. How discipline quietly kills power. We often hear that discipline is the key to greatness, that the more rigid our habits, the stronger we become. But what if I told you discipline, when left unchecked, doesn't create power, it quietly kills it? Let's explore how it happens. First, discipline trains you to obey, not to think. It builds systems of repetition, routines that become sacred. At first, these routines are useful. They keep you focused, give your day structure, and help you stay on track. But over time, something subtle shifts. You stop asking the most important question, is this still working? You wake up early, check the same boxes, follow the same routine, even if your circumstances have changed, even if your goal has shifted. You do it because you've always done it. That's not wisdom, that's sleepwalking with your eyes open. And here's the danger. Discipline without awareness becomes blind obedience. You no longer see that the terrain has changed, that the rules of the game have evolved, that the thing you're pursuing may no longer matter. You just keep going. And persistence in the wrong direction isn't resilience, it's slow-motion failure. Second, discipline rewards endurance, not intelligence. Anyone can grind. Anyone can suffer through repetition. But the most powerful minds don't just endure, they adapt. They know when to pivot, when to quit, and when to burn the entire plan and build a better one. They understand that forward movement means nothing if it isn't aimed at the right target. Discipline keeps you moving, but strategy tells you where to move. And in life, movement without direction isn't progress, it's exhaustion. Imagine a ship sailing full speed into a storm simply because it was told to never stop. That's not bravery. That's suicide. True wisdom comes not from how long you can suffer, but from knowing when to stop suffering needlessly. To pause. To recalculate. To aim again. Third, and perhaps most dangerously, discipline dulls your instincts. You begin to override the very voice that once made you powerful, your intuition. You silence your inner compass because it doesn't fit the spreadsheet, because it disrupts the checklist, because it whispers, change course, when discipline demands you stay the same. But your instincts are not distractions. They are ancient signals, forged by experience and sharpened by awareness. When you ignore them, when you force yourself to push when you should have paused, you don't just lose opportunities, you lose your edge. You become predictable, numb, and eventually ineffective. That's why the sharpest minds, those who rise above the noise, don't follow habits for the sake of looking disciplined. They follow outcomes. They don't ask, "Did I stick to the plan?" They ask, "Did this move bring me closer to control, influence, clarity, or peace?" If the answer is no, the move is dropped. No matter how noble it felt, no matter how many days it had been repeated, no matter how disciplined it made them look, because to them the illusion of progress is more dangerous than any failure. And discipline, when misapplied, is one of the most seductive illusions of all. It makes you feel like you're growing, even while it's keeping you small. The Stoics understood this paradox well. Seneca warned us against clinging to rituals that no longer serve the soul. He wrote, "What is the point of dragging a ship that no longer sails? It looks like movement. It feels like discipline, but it goes nowhere." True Stoic strength isn't about rigid repetition. It's about alignment. It's about doing what needs to be done in this moment, not what you promised yourself 5 months ago, not what a book told you successful people do, but what reason, clarity, and context demand right now. So here's the truth. Discipline is not the enemy, but it is a tool. And like all tools, it must be held with care. Use it, but don't let it use you. Respect it, but don't worship it. Because when you begin to prioritize appearance over effectiveness, loyalty over strategy, and routine over intuition, you don't become stronger. You become easy to defeat. If you want real power, stay awake. Question your systems. Break your routines if they no longer serve the outcome. Don't fear changing your mind when your wisdom deepens. And most of all, never confuse endurance with excellence. Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's worth doing forever. Because the strongest person in the room is not the one who never breaks the pattern. It's the one who can see clearly when it's time to change the pattern entirely. And in the next chapter, we'll talk about the quiet skill that separates those who chase validation from those who command respect. 3. Discipline serves the system, not you. Look around. The world is filled with disciplined men, waking up at 5 a.m., journaling in the quiet hours, eating the same clean meals every day, reading the right books, following the perfect routines. From the outside, it looks like mastery. But the truth is more uncomfortable. Most of them are invisible, replaceable. Not because they're lazy, but because they're loyal to a system that was never designed to make them powerful. That's not a personal failure, it's a structural design. The disciplined man is exactly who the system wants. He's dependable. He doesn't ask too many questions. He pushes through discomfort without resistance. He follows instructions, even when the battlefield has changed. He believes consistency is the path to greatness, and in doing so, he becomes highly efficient at a path that may lead nowhere. That man is predictable, measurable, and easy to forecast. And that's why, in the eyes of Machiavelli, he's not a threat, he's the ideal servant. Now compare him to a different kind of force, a man who doesn't move according to routines, but according to momentum. He doesn't wake up every day asking, "What does my habit require?" He asks, "Where is the window of power today?" He doesn't tie his identity to rituals, he ties it to results. When a strategy stops working, he pivots without apology. When a path loses leverage, he reroutes instantly. He doesn't feel guilt for abandoning yesterday's plan because his loyalty isn't to discipline, it's to advantage. And because he's unpredictable, no one can control him. That's the reversal most people miss. Discipline might make you respectable, but only strategy makes you feared. And in this world, respect without fear is meaningless if you want power. So if you're dragging yourself through a routine each day just to feel proud that you didn't break the chain, ask yourself, are you actually moving forward? Or are you hiding behind consistency because it shields you from the discomfort of change? That's the trap. The game isn't won by the man who worked the hardest. It's won by the one who studied the rules, bent them, and adapted the fastest. Discipline doesn't make you dangerous. Control does. And control doesn't come from rigidity. It comes from flexibility, sharpened by strategy. The Stoics never glorified repetition for its own sake. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," meaning the ability to choose how you respond, how you shift, how you adjust. That's real power. And that power is lost the moment you become addicted to a routine, unwilling to question whether it still serves you. The disciplined man perfects his morning routine. The strategic man perfects his leverage. One becomes efficient at life, the other bends life to his design. That's where Machiavelli draws the line. He doesn't hate effort, he doesn't reject structure, but he knows that once structure becomes sacred, it becomes a prison. And no matter how productive that prison may be, it's still a prison. Here's how it happens. First, you build a habit. Then, the habit becomes your identity. I'm the guy who never skips a day. I'm the man who always finishes what he starts. It sounds noble. It looks strong. But soon, your identity becomes your cage. You become the man who won't adapt because change would threaten who he thinks he is. Machiavelli would look you in the eye and say, "That makes you predictable. That makes you vulnerable. That makes you mine." Because if your next move can be guessed, your enemy doesn't have to fight you. He just has to let you walk yourself into the trap you've built with your own discipline. The Machiavellian mind doesn't live by rules. It uses them. It builds systems and breaks them. It adopts structure, then abandons it. It knows that a plan is useful only as long as it serves the pursuit of power, and when it no longer does, it burns it without hesitation, without sentiment. That's what adaptability looks like in action. When the routine loses momentum, it's dropped. When the battlefield changes, the strategy changes. When the opportunity appears, he moves, even if it means stepping off the well-paved road into unknown terrain. Because he knows, power is not awarded to the most consistent. It's given to the most adaptive. And that brings us to the next essential truth, the mindset that silences the need for validation and sharpens your presence into something unforgettable. 4. The discipline trap. You didn't see coming. Let's be practical for a moment. Discipline sounds noble, routines feel productive, but if you're not careful, they can quietly turn into the very chains that keep you from rising. There are 3 common traps that disciplined men fall into. And if you want to be dangerous, not just diligent, you need to see through them. The first trap is the morning routine illusion. Wake up at 5 a.m., cold shower, journal, meditate, gym, green smoothie. You follow it perfectly, and by 8 a.m. you feel like a machine. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Did you actually think? Or did you just obey? If your entire morning was a sequence of rituals you copied from someone else's book, it wasn't power, it was performance. You weren't making decisions, you were reciting a script. The Stoic mind doesn't ask, "Did I do all the steps?" It asks, "Did this position me for real-world leverage today? Did it move the needle in your life, or just make you feel productive?" Imagine a day where the most decisive moment isn't at sunrise, it's at 2 p.m. in a negotiation. What matters more, your pride at waking up early or your clarity when it counts? If skipping the gym gives you time to prepare for a high-stakes phone call, skip it. If ignoring your journal gives you mental space to plan your next strategic move, ignore it. If sleeping in gives you the edge you'll need later, sleep. You're not here to serve your calendar, you're here to win. The second trap is the streak addiction. I haven't missed a day in 100 days. That sounds like strength, but often it's pride in disguise. The streak becomes your identity, and suddenly you're not doing the task because it works. You're doing it because stopping feels like failure. That's not power. That's emotional leverage used against yourself. Machiavelli would see it instantly. A man who's ruled by his own routine is easier to control than one ruled by an enemy. The disciplined man says, "I've come too far to quit." The strategic man says, "If quitting now gives me an edge, I'll drop it without hesitation." That's the key difference. Consistency is only powerful when it continues to deliver value. If your system starts producing comfort instead of results, you have to walk away. Because every extra day you spend inside a routine that's lost its edge is a day your competitors gain ground and you lose it. The third trap is the finish what you started lie. We're taught from a young age to never quit, to always finish what we begin. But that's not wisdom, it's dogma. Machiavelli didn't finish bad plans. He replaced them. He didn't force himself to see things through just to prove a point. He adapted, and that's what made him effective. Because persistence without re-evaluation is wasted life. It's energy spent pushing a broken cart uphill while someone smarter simply trades carts and passes by. This doesn't make you flaky, it makes you efficient. It makes you lethal, because in the real world, success doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards those who can sense when something has lost power and shift instantly to something stronger. This is the dividing line between the obedient man and the strategist. One follows the routine because it's familiar. The other uses routine as a weapon and abandons it the second it dulls. He doesn't build identity around being disciplined. He builds identity around being adaptive, because he knows that a rhythm others can track is a rhythm that can be exploited. He teaches himself to break his own patterns so no one else can predict them. And this is where the Stoic and the Machiavellian converge. They both understand that routine without reflection is a form of hypnosis. You're not being controlled by someone else. You're controlling yourself into weakness. It feels like strength, but it's not. Seneca warned us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Many suffer because they can't imagine stepping off the path they've walked too long, even when it no longer leads anywhere. So here's the challenge. Ask yourself honestly, are you being consistent because it still works, or because it's what you're used to? Are you following discipline to create movement or to feel safe in the illusion of control? Are you proud of how long you've stuck to the system, even if that system no longer produces anything real? Because discipline, when not tied to results, becomes a cage. And worse, it's a cage you've built with your own hands. Machiavelli didn't glorify motivation. He didn't praise obedience. He praised flexibility, timing, foresight, and control. Because in the real game of power, the man who follows a plan is useful, but the man who can walk away from it at the exact right moment, he's the one no one can touch. And in the next lesson, we'll uncover the Stoic principle that turns silence into your sharpest weapon. 5. Discipline is a performance, not strength. By now you understand something most never will. Discipline, when followed without thought, isn't a superpower, it's a performance. It looks impressive from the outside. It earns you praise, admiration, and applause. But behind the curtain, something deeper is happening. You're trading power for predictability. You're exchanging your edge for approval. People see your grind and they call it focus. They see your habits and they call you reliable. They watch your discipline and call it admirable. But what they don't see, what they'll never praise, is what you sacrificed to maintain the illusion. They don't see the opportunities you missed because you refused to pivot. They don't see the power you surrendered to protect your image of consistency. They don't see the sharp instinct, the wild creativity, the gut-level judgment you buried beneath your structured routine. That's what makes this performance so seductive. It doesn't just feel good, it looks good, and because it looks good, it becomes hard to question. But as the Stoics would remind us, appearances mean nothing if they aren't tied to essence. Epictetus taught, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. The question is, are you embodying wisdom or just rehearsing discipline? This is where Machiavelli's genius comes into view. He saw what most people don't. That discipline, when worshipped, becomes a leash, not one placed on you by others, but one you tighten around your own neck. You believe it makes you strong to say, I always push through. But the wise man asks, push through what and why? You say, I never quit. But the strategic mind counters, is what you're doing still worth finishing, or are you just afraid of appearing inconsistent? You say, I'm locked in, and the Machiavellian responds, good. Now your enemies know exactly where to find you. Because that's the real cost of discipline turned into performance. It makes you visible, predictable, trackable. In war, the predictable soldier is ambushed first. In politics, the predictable voice is the easiest to manipulate. In life, the predictable man is the last to seize power, because everyone already knows what he'll do next. Let's make this concrete. Imagine two men at a crossroads. One sticks to his morning routine, goes to the gym, eats the same breakfast, reads for an hour, and checks the same news feed every single day. He believes this makes him strong, but he fails to notice that the opportunity he needed to change his future came at 8:17 a.m. and passed while he was stuck inside the script of his habits. Meanwhile, the other man watches the environment. He senses something unusual. He skips his routine, takes the call, answers the door, pivots directions, and that becomes the moment his entire life shifts. That's not chaos. That's mastery. That's the power of choosing relevance over repetition. The Stoics would not confuse habit with virtue. They would ask, does this help you live in accordance with nature, with reason, with truth? If it no longer serves your flourishing, it must go. Seneca wrote, a wise man is never too busy to change, and yet today we glorify busyness, idolize routine, and cling to discipline like a badge of honor, afraid that without it we'll lose ourselves. But the truth is, you don't lose yourself when you abandon habits that no longer serve you. You find yourself. You reclaim the part of you that was buried beneath routine. You become dangerous again. So ask yourself, honestly, who are you performing for? And what has that performance cost you? Are you still thinking, adapting, sensing? Or are you just executing, repeating, surviving? Because in the end, power doesn't belong to the man who looks impressive. It belongs to the one who moves in silence, sees clearly, and adapts without hesitation. The one who can abandon a plan without apology, who can discard the identity that once served him and evolve into something sharper, faster, and freer. That's the Stoic warrior. Quiet, intentional, unattached to praise, unafraid of change. He doesn't need to be admired. He needs to be ready. And in the next chapter, we'll explore the mindset that teaches you how to strike with precision, when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to disappear completely. 6. Power belongs to the unpredictable. So what does the truly dangerous man do instead? He doesn't cling to predictability. He doesn't worship consistency. He learns to weaponize unpredictability, not as an excuse for laziness, not as chaos, but as a strategy. Strategic inconsistency. 1 week, he's present and sociable. The next, he vanishes. One day he's warm and agreeable, the next he's cold and unreachable. One season he's everywhere, then nothing but silence. Why? Because confusion creates power. And when people can't track your rhythm, they can't anticipate your next move. When they can't map you, they start to overthink you. They hesitate, they second guess. And that hesitation becomes your leverage. Discipline earns admiration. But unpredictability creates a different reaction. It breeds fear. And when it comes to power, fear will take you farther than applause ever could. Machiavelli believed no man should ever reveal the full pattern of his behavior. He must stay just outside the lines of what others expect. If they think you'll always be polite, go silent. If they assume you'll always be calm, show fire. If they expect you to show up, disappear. This isn't recklessness. It's precision. It's choosing how you're perceived, even when that perception feels blurred. Because once people are unsure of your rhythm, they start watching closer. They start trying to figure you out. And that alone shifts the balance. Here's the deeper truth. Discipline is control over yourself, but strategy is control over the game. Discipline says, I will keep going no matter what. Strategy says, I will stop the moment it no longer gives me leverage and strike again when the timing serves me. Discipline builds willpower. Strategy builds advantage. And in a Machiavellian world, advantage always beats effort. So why does this idea make people uncomfortable? Because most of what the world teaches you is repetition. Wake up early. Follow the same steps. Do the same things. Repeat, repeat, repeat. But that advice was never designed to produce leaders. It was designed to produce reliable followers. People who can be counted on to execute, but not to disrupt. People who obey routines, not build empires. But you weren't born to obey. You weren't built to be manageable. You were built to be sharp, to be dangerous. You were built to think, calculate, strike. Which means you have to unlearn the systems designed to tame you. You don't reject all discipline, but you reject the kind that makes you predictable. Machiavelli didn't teach chaos. He taught disruption, intelligent, timely disruption. Keep discipline when it leads to true mastery. Keep it when it creates momentum and control. But the moment it becomes a cage, the moment it turns into a pattern someone else can follow, you destroy it. Because no routine, no matter how healthy, is worth giving up your edge. And no system, no matter how effective, is worth sacrificing your ability to surprise, adapt, and overwhelm. This is where the strategic man separates himself. He's willing to abandon what once made him respectable if it no longer makes him dangerous. He's not afraid to walk away from his own rituals. He doesn't cling to what worked yesterday if it weakens him today. He breaks his rhythm before someone else breaks it for him. Discipline might help you build the castle, but strategy is what keeps you on the throne. Because when the plan collapses, when the enemy is at the gates, when the system falls apart, the disciplined man says, "This isn't how I planned it." But the Machiavellian smiles and says, "Good. Now we play by my rules." By now, you've likely begun to question everything you were taught about discipline. You were told it was freedom. You were told it would make you strong, that it would shape your future. But none of that is true unless you're the one shaping where it leads. Because if you're not in control of the direction, discipline doesn't free you. It just makes you walk faster towards someone else's goal. And that's the final trap. The world rewards the man who is consistent, reliable, and routine. It gives him a title, a certificate, a pat on the back. And then, once he's predictable, it moves him aside for the man who can't be tracked. The one who bends rules, who moves in silence, who adapts without guilt and disappears before you can corner him. That man isn't admired. He's respected. He isn't safe. He's feared. He doesn't live inside a routine. He lives in response. He wakes not to check boxes, but to read the battlefield, to calculate pressure, to feel the shift, to strike where it hurts. And if yesterday's plan no longer applies today, he tears it up without hesitation, because he knows power isn't a reward for effort. It's the result of clarity, timing, and adaptability. And when discipline becomes doctrine, it kills all three. And next, we'll explore the Stoic force that transforms inner silence into unstoppable strength. 7. Real strength is built on readiness. The truly dangerous man isn't defined by the habits he keeps. He's defined by how easily he can burn them to the ground. His discipline is not constant, it's situational. He doesn't worship structure, he controls it. When the moment calls for precision, he becomes calculated. When chaos offers an opening, he becomes chaos. What makes him powerful isn't routine, it's his refusal to be tracked. He's unreadable, not because he's mysterious by nature, but because he's trained himself to violate his own patterns. He's not afraid to break a streak. He's afraid of being predictable, because once your pattern is known, so is your vulnerability. Machiavelli never built power by being easy to study, and neither did any of history's dominant figures. They didn't win by repeating rituals. They won by disrupting expectations. They didn't cling to daily practice. They mastered the art of sudden change. And those who refused to adapt, the terrain shifted and they were crushed beneath it. Because here's the truth. Power doesn't reward the man who shows up every day like clockwork. Power rewards the man who knows exactly when to appear, when to vanish, when to hold back, and when to strike. So, here's the question. If someone stripped away your routine, your carefully built habits, your schedule, your structure, would you still move with clarity? Or would you freeze? Would you lose momentum without your ritual? Would your mind stall without your routine? Because if your strength depends on routine, it's not strength, it's dependency, it's rented power. And the second life shakes that system, you collapse with it. The Machiavellian builds on something far more durable, readiness, and he sharpens two weapons sharper than any habit. First, his awareness. He studies people, environments, power dynamics. He knows which rules to follow and which ones to bend, to tip control in his favor. He can walk into a room and sense what others haven't even noticed. That's not magic. That's practiced alertness. Second, he masters detachment. Detachment from the plan, from pride, from the need to be seen as consistent or disciplined. He has nothing to prove, only something to win. That's why you won't find him stuck in a cycle. You won't hear him say, "But I've done this every day for 100 days. If something no longer creates advantage, he lets it go. No guilt, no hesitation. And that's why he wins. Because while others perform discipline for applause, he operates from a deeper place, prepared for anything and attached to nothing. And now we arrive at the final insight, the silent skill that ensures no one can ever control you again. So, what should you do now? Keep your habits if they serve you, but stop tying them to who you are. Ask yourself with honesty, is this still working or just familiar? Could I let it go and build something better if I had to? That's real strength. Power doesn't come from rigid consistency. It comes from your ability to shift with precision. So if this spoke to you, subscribe and keep sharpening your mind. Drop a quick comment below. Stay adaptive. And remember, the next step is not to hold tighter but to move smarter. The next video will show you how.